Hello and welcome back to Coding for Real with Neil. I am your host and my name of course is Neil. This is PHP for Real, where we discuss all things PHP and we apply it to real world scenarios. A little bit thirsty. Okay, I've got this old audio bottle here that has water in it. Very, very easy for me to get water. It would be really hard for me to get water without this container to put it in. Oh, strange. I've got another vessel here, another container. This container has coffee in it. Again, it would be really hard for me to get and do anything with this liquid coffee if I didn't have a container to put it in. Anyway, if you haven't figured it out yet, this lesson is all about variables in PHP. Going to be a doozy. I'll see you in there. The first thing I do want to touch on very quickly is PHP Syntax. So I'm over here on w3schools.com and I have up the PHP Syntax lesson, I guess. The very first thing it says here is a PHP script is executed on the server and the plain HTML result is sent back to the browser. Now we do talk a little bit about this in my last video. The link will be in the description. If you haven't seen it yet, I do recommend you go and watch it. What is syntax? Syntax is essentially how you write something. So the correct definition of the word syntax is the grammatical structure of sentences. It's exactly the same in coding. The syntax is simply how you structure your instructions or your lines of code. Each language does differ in syntax. We're going to be learning the PHP syntax. Basically, PHP syntax can be placed anywhere inside your document. All you need to do is you open your block of PHP script with the less than symbol, question mark PHP, and you end it with question mark greater than symbol. That is it. So here is the example here. So you open it with less than question mark PHP, and then you end it with question mark greater than. Now, the default file extension for PHP files is .php, as we discussed in the last video. A PHP file normally contains HTML tags and some PHP scripting code. Universal remote, if we remember. So this is just an example. So you've got your standard HTML document, you've got your HTML in your body, you've just got a simple h1 HTML tag with my first PHP page. And then we have the open and closing PHP tags within the HTML document. Echo is just going to print out something to the browser screen. And we have got hello world here. Very, very simple. All this is going to do is print hello world to the browser. All PHP statements must end with a semicolon. In PHP, keywords, for example, if, else, while, echo, we haven't learnt about these conditionals yet, but we will go through that at a later stage. But pretty much all you need to know at this point, the names of classes and the names of functions as well, they're not case sensitive. So what this means is, as it says down here, echo with all capital letters, echo with all small letters, and then echo with weird up, lower, all work exactly the same. So this will do the exact same thing because this keyword, reserved word, is not case sensitive. Now, one thing to note here is that all variable names are in fact case sensitive. Okay, so you can't, for example here, if you make a variable, we'll be touching on variables very, very shortly. If you make a variable called color, you cannot then use it as color with all capitals or color like this. The variable name is color with all lowercase. The only way for you to access that variable is by using it with all lowercase. These three will be treated as three different variables. So as you can see here, so if we tried this, color is red. This one here will write my car is red. This one here will write my house is nothing, and this one will write my boat is nothing. If we try it ourselves, there we go. My car is red because this color lowercase matches this color lowercase. My house is blank because that is not a defined variable. My boat is blank because that is also not a defined variable. What is a variable? I did a Google search for what is a variable, and this is what I found. This is from W3 Schools. A variable is a container for information you want to store. A variable's value can change during the script. You can refer to a variable by name to see its value or change its value. So if you remember in the introduction how I had the container with water in it, the water would be the data type that I am storing inside of the bottle. The bottle would be the variable name. So if I wanted to access water, I would use bottle. Similarly with the cup of coffee, the mug would be the variable. The coffee would be the data type, or the data that is stored within the mug. For me to access the coffee data, all I'd need to do is call mug. And I will be showing you an example after this, but that is what a variable is. Just remember, if there's one thing you take away from this lesson, remember that a variable is a container for information you want to store. Okay? Let's go over to W3 Schools, and we've got PHP Variables. So variables are containers for storing information. In PHP, so this is the syntax. Right? This is the syntax of creating a variable in PHP. A variable starts with the $, followed by the name of the variable. So in this case, we have a $text. So this txt here, you can name this anything you want. This is up to you. Normally, best practice is that you would name it something memorable, something that makes sense for its purpose. So for this purpose, it is named text. You wouldn't, for example, name this number and then have letters in there. That doesn't make sense. And for people that are going to be reading your code after you've written it, or if you're going to come back to your code, it needs to make sense. So use a name that fits with its purpose. And then the contents of text of the text variable is hello world. And then you can access this string. This is called a string. We'll get into data types in a future video. But to get access to this string contained within the variable, all we do is we would need to be calling text. And every time we call text, it will print this. And we'll be touching on how to manipulate this, how to change this later. But for now, all you need to know is you name the variable. It starts with a $, and then you assign the data that you want to store inside the container on the right-hand side of the equal sign. Some rules with PHP variables. A variable can have a short name like X or Y, or a more descriptive name, age, car name, total volume. I do recommend you use a descriptive name for the reasons I suggested, but there are some rules to follow for PHP variables. A variable in PHP starts with the $. It must start with a $, followed by the name of the variable. A variable name must start with a letter or the underscore character, which is this character here, which is shift and the number next to the key next to the 0 will give you the underscore. So it must start with a letter or the underscore. A variable name cannot start with a number. A variable name can only contain alphanumeric characters and underscores. So that is anywhere from A to Z, uppercase, lowercase, 0 to 9, and the underscore character. And variable names are case sensitive. Do remember this. So $age in lowercase and $age in uppercase are two completely different variables. So again, they've reiterated it here. remember that PHP variable names are case sensitive. The last thing I want to touch on here is that PHP is a loosely typed language. What this means is that we don't have to tell PHP what data type the variable is storing. In some other languages, you would need to use int and then the variable name to tell the language that it's an integer that's stored within. Or you'll have to use string and the variable name to tell the language that it's a string stored within that variable. In PHP, you don't have to use that. It automatically associates a data type to the variable depending on the value that is placed within the variable. Since data types in PHP are not set in a strict sense, you can do things like adding a string to an integer without causing an error. So this is something to remember. PHP is a loosely typed language in that we don't have to tell PHP what data type we're assigning to the variable. It automatically figures it out. The very last thing I do want to show you is a live example of PHP variables. So what I've got here is I've just got a simple index.php file. It is within my MAMP htdocs. I did talk about that in the first video of this course. Link will be in the description. And then I've set up a folder called PHP course. This is lesson 3, index.php. That is that file. Very first thing we need to do is we need to put in our open and closing PHP tags, which is done just like that. And then we're going to put in a variable. Let's call this variable like. And that's going to be set just to a string called like. Must be closed with a semicolon. The next one is going to be called subscribe. And that is going to be a string called subscribe. And then all we need to do to have it display in the browser is we type echo, and then we put in our first variable, like. Then we're going to concatenate. You will learn about concatenation in a later lesson, but to concatenate in PHP, you just use the dot. And then we are going to put space plus space. Then we are going to concatenate again using dot, and we're going to put in our second variable, which is subscribe. End it with a semicolon. Now, if I go over to my web browser, we have set up here, so we are in our local host, which is our directory. We are in PHP course. We are in lesson 3. In here, you can see we now have like and subscribe, just a cheeky little message there. So that is how we output PHP variables using the echo method to a browser. Hey, you've made it to the end of lesson 3. Congratulations. In this lesson, you would have learnt about variables in PHP, how to create them, how to assign some data to them, how to output them to a browser in Echo as well. Oh, we are getting into some really good content now. The next lesson is going to be all about data types and constants, and also about how to comment out code. That's all coming up in the next lesson. I'll see you next week.